All right, let's get this show on the road. We're back. Back after 10 days off the podcast. So, good to be back. Welcome to the Colonel and the Kid podcast. I am your host, Greg Heitman. And we're here today to do the little reading kid memoir. This is chapter 46 called The Elk Hunt. And this is kind of a longer one. A few more photos than usual, a few more words. I don't know, it's about 3,000 words. So it's going to take a little time, try to get jumped right into it here, but just a little background. This is the Colonel and the Kid podcast. I'm your host, Greg Heitman. And a little background. This is a memoir and the podcast built around my memoir of my grandfather, Lieutenant Colonel Edwin P. Hagen Jr. It's my mom's dad. And it's just basically a tribute, a documentation of my relationship with my grandfather, my grandpa. A lot of people call him the Colonel. I just called him Grandpa. But I just wanted to preserve some of the memories and the history of his life, mostly through my eyes and my relationship with him. And I don't know. I'm hoping it's a fair job. I mean, evenly told along those lines. I hope I'm hoping I'm doing an excellent job of conveying that I'm a fair-minded observer of the relationship. It's not. I mean, it's not like I won't be biased, but I'm doing my best. Doing my best to make it a clear and color picture of the relationship and just what a great man Grandpa was. And today we're going to talk about him in the light of mostly my own story of elk hunting. And it kind of relates, it'll play out and you'll see the effect, for me, the relationship that's ever present in my life anyway, and how that, I guess, I don't know, I guess I assume that everyone sort of has that influence in the back of their mind, that little, you have your own conscience speaking to you all the time, but, my conscience is infused with my grandpa's voice, I guess, I think in there. Maybe I'm just weird that way, but I think everyone's got those influences back in the back of their head, speaking to them and telling it like it is, hopefully giving some guidance. So anyway, that'll be the um the primary focus of this podcast. Just gonna be the reading of the memoir, put it into the record. And then I don't know if I can get to anything else. I might be tired. My voice is still trying to get back into shape after taking so much time off, including 10 days. But that's the spine of the podcast anyway, is the story, the the uh the chapter that I read each time in the podcast. And like I said, today's chapter 46, the elk hunt. That's the memoir is the spine, but I branch off into other things, and it's really become my own psychotherapy, I guess, my introspective analysis, how I can analyze myself and see how I'm doing overall compared to what I think I'm doing. I guess there's the baseline and then how you're doing overall, above or below the baseline of what you expect. And sort of like talk therapy, just to talk to myself and compare it to what I think's going on in my head after hearing myself say aloud. I don't know if it makes any sense. It makes sense to me because I think it's sort of a catharsis when you talk to yourself like this, put it onto the record. And that's sort of the side benefit, I guess, of just for me to be able to preserve the history of my grandfather and make sure that, my relatives know how much he meant to me, and then the relatives of my relatives, and the way it goes down the line, they can see the influences of my life, and hopefully they can find their own influences and have a good outcome. I don't know, I think I'm having a good outcome so far. Success. So anyway, this is it. This is what we're doing. The memoir is pretty much written. I think we've got the written word done, 99%, and now we're just doing the video and audio record of the memoir. And without further ado, I think I'm just gonna jump right in and, get this read into the record for today. So, here we go. Here we are, season 3 of the Colonel and the Kid podcast. And this is chapter 46, The Elk Hunt. And as always, I like to start each chapter with a quote. And today's quote is, quote, "I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived," end quote. And that's a quote from Henry David Thoreau from Walden, or Life in the Woods, as he called it. All right, dive into the chapter. "You need a bigger rifle to hunt elk. Take my 30-06, Grandpa said to me. No, that's okay. I bought a new mountain rifle, a 30-06 titanium Remington Model 700. It's super lightweight to theoretically reduce strain of hiking up and down mountains," I smiled. I was embarrassed. I wanted the rifle, but should I take it? It felt like I was doing something wrong if I took it. And here we have the first picture of the chapter. And I'll read the caption and talk a little bit. The caption reads, "My Remington Model 700 titanium mountain rifle chambered in 30-06 Springfield. It weighs just under 7 pounds, all decked out with scope, sling, stock cartridge holder, topped with a Leopold scope. It has been a dependable tool for me." And so I just have a photograph of the rifle here. It's black synthetic stock, stainless steel. It's got a fluted bolt to help reduce weight, supposedly. And it's got a black Leopold scope and sling on it. And it's just the background is just the photograph is from above, and the barrel is facing to the right. So you can see it's a bolt action Remington 700. So you can see the bolt and how it opens and everything. But I think I bought that rifle in 2006. It might have been 2005. I think it was 2006. And I had read something about it and thought, yeah, I think I need a really light rifle to carry around in the mountains because I'd be carrying a pack and stuff. And I don't remember how much I paid for it. I bet it was about $1,000 back then, and another 500 for the scope. And it was my first 30-06 I ever purchased. That very universal and reliable caliber. It's been a good rifle. Anyway, I won't dwell on that. I'll move on to the next. There's another photo right away. And I have that photo, and I'll read the caption and then talk about it. And the caption reads, "Grandpa's Browning Bar." And BAR, B-A-R, it stands for Browning Automatic Rifle. 30-06 Springfield. So, and the picture of below my titanium rifle is the actual rifle that Grandpa gave to me to hunt elk. And it's a Browning. It's got really nice wood. I have a cartridge holder on the stock there too, covering up that nice wood. And it's got a Leopold scope on it that I put on there. And it's just a nice Browning semi-automatic rifle, and it's got that kind of that square humpback typical of Brownings. It's got a hooded front sight on there. It's got an open sight still on it. And then but I use a scope, so those sights are, I guess, sort of a backup in case the scope would break and I had to take it off or something like that, but it's a really beautiful rifle, and I have a couple more pictures, and I'll read the caption and talk about that. So this next picture, I'll read the caption here. The caption reads, "Detail of the engraving on Grandpa's Browning 30-06, a bugling elk." And so this is just zoomed in on the metalwork of the action on the opposite side of where the bolt is, and it's got a little scrolling engraving on there, and then with a little, like a it's an elk, just like the chest, like it would see from like a chest mount, wall, head and shoulder mount from like a elk, and this elk is bugling. It's got its mouth open, head turned to the left. It's really pretty cool. And then I have another photo here, and I'll read the caption. Detail of the engraving on Grandpa's Browning 30-06, a nice pronghorn. And so this is the opposite side. This is where the bolt is on the semi-automatic rifle. And you can see that the engraving similar to the other side of where the elk is, and this is just a pronghorn. Nice pronghorn buck, just like the head and shoulder, just in profile on this side. And you can see the rest of the metal, where the action of the rifle is, and the safety and the trigger and stuff, and zoomed in on that just to give you an idea of the little artistic sense of that rifle. I'm guessing Grandpa had to pay a little extra for that. I wish I had some more information on when he bought that and how much it cost at that time. I guess I could probably Google that, probably get a pretty good idea. And as always, I say that I'll have to check that out. I should have had that information available and put in here, but I don't have that. And once again, I say that, yeah, I'm going to do that, and then I'll probably forget about it. But anyway, if anybody could remind me in the comments or in an email, you can just remind me to do that, and then I'll try to do that and add that to the notes of a future podcast, possibly. Anyway, excuse me. Anyway, back to the chapter. Grandpa insisted. I took the rifle. He wasn't going to be hunting anymore, not after his heart attack and bypass surgery. His health was failing. His diabetes had advanced. He required insulin now. I still have a pang of guilt 15 plus years later. It's closer to 20 years later since it's taken me this long to finish up this memoir and get to the podcast, but at the time of this writing, it was 15 plus years later that I still have a pang of guilt. And I think maybe that's wore off now. I think that I think the rifle's in good hands with me. This is an aside. This is in the chapter. This is just me talking about that now. After I've read that about my guilt, I think it'll stay in the family and go into good hands and good safekeeping for the next generation. So, anyway, back to the chapter. Maybe I feel I don't deserve it. Why would that be? I guess that's the psychological baggage of not being an only child. Grandpa gave the gun to me. He could have given it to Grady or Garrett, but he didn't. There's nothing wrong with me accepting the rifle from him. It is a beautiful rifle. I love that rifle. I killed a doe with that rifle on Grady's ranch a few years ago. So why was it so difficult for me to accept that gift from my grandpa? There's probably a lot to be analyzed here, but I've concluded it centers on acknowledging, as Grandpa identified, one step closer. He knew, and I knew, the end was approaching. Grandpa gave me a valued possession and a tool that I could use and enjoy. I was reluctant to take that rifle because it seemed like I was going to fulfill the prophecy if I had accepted that gift. Like I might be able to alter the outcome by denying the rifle. I am so glad that I accepted the Browning. And here we have a picture. And I'll read the caption, and I will talk about the photo. Caption reads November 2009. This doe was shot from my favorite bale stack on Section 36 of Grady's Ranch in Fulton County, South Dakota, with Grandpa's Browning 30-06 Springfield. I'm all smiles, savoring a successful evening hunt. And so to describe the picture, I'm in my typical outfit, quote unquote outfit, if you will, for hunting deer back in South Dakota at Grady's place. And it's a nice doe. It's probably a medium-sized doe. I don't think it was a fawn. I'm pretty sure it was just a small doe. And it's on the bed of my pickup, and I'm standing there with my orange vest and hunting jacket, and I got a camouflage hunting sweatshirt on there, and my orange cap, and I think I'm still wearing my coveralls. I got a bandana, and I'm on the left side of the truck, and I'm in my left hand. I'm holding the rifle, Grandpa's rifle there, and standing to the side of where the doe is laying there, head facing the camera. And I'm pretty sure Grady took this picture. And one of the dogs is in the back of the pickup. I think that might have been Toby. It's a great big black lab. And he was one of the few males that Grady had for his black lab hunting dogs for hunting pheasants and ducks and stuff. And I think that's my old green Chevy pickup, and you can barely see that I have a yellow New Mexico license plate there reflecting the flash of the camera. I'm trying to think. I have a tote, a great big plastic tote. Used to carry some stuff in there to keep the dust off of it. Mostly when you're out on gravel roads and stuff, the dust would just be so bad in the back of the truck. And if you wanted to protect it, you'd have some sort of tote or something with a good sealed cover. And I think that tote got stolen from my driveway here in Santa Fe at one point many years ago. And I had a chain or some other miscellaneous vehicle things I like to carry around just for emergency or whatever. Tire iron or something. I don't know. But anyway, I should probably get this picture framed because I really enjoy seeing that I guess just that rifle being successfully used after its prime hunting way back when. And as I look closer, I think there might be another lab behind Toby there. I'm not sure which that one. That was I guess I've forgotten the names. I'm getting so old I don't remember all the dogs' names anymore. Grady had. Anyway, that's not the point of this. Point is to remember Grandpa and the rifle and the successful hunt, and we had that with that picture. Anyway, back to the chapter. I'd been hunting deer with a similar Browning bar, chambered in a .270 Winchester caliber since 1999. I had been inspired by Grandpa's choice of armament, and it never let me down. One of the joys of my life occurred during the time spent with South Dakota Air National Guard. Not so much the guard drill, but the time I spent that Saturday evening after the training day was over. I would cruise to Shields Sporting Goods in the mall and inspect the inventory of guns. It was fun looking over the used guns in the ever-changing inventory. I purchased my Browning bar, semi-automatic .270 Winchester, brand new, from Shields in the summer of 1999 for the fall deer season. I purchased a Leopold 50mm objective Variax scope from Cabela's, and the helpful staff at Shields mounted the scope for me. That might be some of the most enjoyable money I ever spent. Invested, really. Grandpa's rifle served as my backup rifle for a few years. It needs some work. Hopefully it's just needs a good cleaning by a gunsmith. I consider it semi-retired for the time being. My plan is to get it properly serviced and put back in action. Now that I am retired, I envision a few more years of deer hunting with that rifle back on Grady's ranch, on prairies with the national grasslands, or even in the Black Hills. I failed to mention how accurate Grandpa's rifle is. That gun can shoot tight groups. It's not like my 270 doesn't match the accuracy. No, I'd say my 270 is an equivalent. There's something about Grandpa's rifle. And here we have another photo. And I'll read the caption and then talk about it a little bit. Circa 1978, a photo from our trip through Yellowstone National Park when the family moved from Billings, Montana to Brigham City, Utah. This is my first recollection of elk, or wapiti, as the Native Americans call them. And this is a photo along the highway in Yellowstone, and there's a couple of elk in the ditch, the green grass of the ditch in the summertime, and aspens along a little further back away from the grassy ditch, and the elk there's two elk, one close, and just see the south end of a north-facing elk, cow elk, and in the further distance, there's a bull elk with a big, it's a fairly decent set of antlers. And I think Grady took this picture with the old camera of my dad's, and I don't know, I'm not sure. I think Grady got out and to take the picture, but I'm not 100% sure. It may have been just taken from the window of the car by my dad, but it also includes, like, you can just see off to the right side of the photo, you can see a taillight from a Thunderbird, Ford Thunderbird car. You can just see the logo of the Thunderbird in the red taillight there. It's kind of interesting to see, and you see the cracked black asphalt street or highway, I guess it is, through the park there, and I think it's an overcast, kind of cloudy day. It looks kind of grayish day, and the pavement looks like it might even be wet. So maybe it wasn't the best day to be in the park, but we were just driving through. It's a sort of an inspirational photo for me. So I'm not saying it's the linchpin that sent me on this journey in my life, which was fulfilled to live in elk country, but it may have had some peripheral influence in my life. Anyway, back to the chapter. Since this is a chapter about an elk hunt, I'd be remiss if I didn't discuss my first elk. But first, before the hunt, I scouted. Got pretty excited after the second round of scouting in August, just 2 months before the rifle season started. It was a bright sunny day up in the mountains, and typical of the area, it was windy. The wind was perfect cover to blow my scent in the right direction and cover any noises as I moved through the woods. I got a lot of elk photos with my Canon camera that day. And then here's a good photo. I'll read the caption and then talk about it. The caption reads, "This calf spotted me as I sat on a steep slope just uphill the herd as they moved by from west to east, August 7th, 2011. So there's in the center of the foreground, there's a little calf elk showing this nice summer coat, and it's looking right at me. And I got a picture of it. It's close. I bet it was probably only 30, 40 yards away, and it was coming up closer to, I think it was very curious, and it saw me and just wanted to come closer, and I just sat there still and took some photos. And I'm guessing the camera was probably making some clicking noises. This is a Canon digital camera that I've had. I think I got that camera in 2007, so that camera is almost 20 years old, 19 years old. And then further in the background, you can see, I'm pretty sure it's a cow elk. You can see the chest and the front legs of a cow elk walking in the background. I don't know if there was like 10 or 12 in this herd as they came through. I just sat there and took photos of them, kind of just sitting still and let them move past without disturbing them. And the next photo, I'll read the caption. Caption reads, this nice bull, antlers in velvet, takes a surreptitious glance at me while he feeds on forest grasses, August 7th, 2011. This is the same scouting trip. And, I guess maybe I kinda stood out a little. I wasn't hiding or I didn't wear wasn't wearing any camouflage. I just kinda sitting on this kinda stony outcrop as the elk passed by, and first week in August, they're still in velvet. Their antlers are growing. They're not done growing. These are probably close to done growing, but still in that full, beautiful velvet texture. And this guy's in shadow. He's kind of looking at me. And probably is what is that thing over there? The weirdest looking rock I've ever seen. And here we go. Here's another photo. I'll read the caption. A nice set of velvety antlers shine in the sun as this bull finds a gap in the trees to be illuminated by the sunshine. I have dubbed this elk frequented area, quote, elk garden, end quote, as it is everything you can imagine for elk habitat and growing elk. And this is the same scouting trip, August 7th, 2011. And this is, there's aspens and pine trees, fir trees. I think that's fir. I'm pretty sure there's mostly fir trees in this area, but there's ponderosa pine. There's all kinds of different evergreens in this area. And this picture of this elk, you can really see the velvet on the antlers. And he's in the bright sunshine in the shadowy forest canopy. He's got a little opening there, and his ears are pointed back towards me, but he's looking the other way. So, and he knows something's probably up. Just not sure. Just looking around. And really cool photo. Memories brought back by those photos. Scouting trip. But anyway, back to the chapter. In 2011, 4 years after Grandpa passed away, I got my first elk. My guide, Clyde Pena, who just happens to be Angela's, my fiance's, father, and I were hunting high in the mountains in Unit 51 in northern New Mexico. It was a battle to set up camp in that second week of October at an elevation of 9,500 feet. It was snowing. Nay, it was a mountain blizzard. By opening morning, we had a foot of fresh powder on the ground. Clyde opted to sleep in as he was less eager to battle the snow. That was fine with me. And here I get a little picture. I'll read the caption and talk about it a little bit. And caption reads, "My elk hunting camp in my tent with a nod to Grandpa's Alaskan Army training." So anyways, this is my tent. It's olive drab. Cabela's tent, just nylon in amongst some little bit of protection of some pine trees. There's some smaller aspens around, and you can just barely kind of see the tent kind of blending in with the background there. It's kind of funny. But it doesn't look like there's much snow there. Probably looks like only 3 or 4 inches. I think I got that after the snow had settled a little bit. And it wasn't snowing when I took the picture, but that was my elk camp for that year, 2011. Anyway, that opening morning, I took off on foot from camp that Saturday morning at first light. It was still snowing like crazy. But I was undeterred. Full of adrenaline and anticipation, I quickly cut some elk tracks. 2 elk. I followed them through pine trees, finally spotting them through the gray blanket of falling snow. They were a long way out. In the open, heading for another stand of trees. It was up and down a few hundred feet, probably more like 1,000 feet. It was too much given the foot of snow I was trying to navigate. I wasn't going to chase them. I would post up on the mountainside in an area that was relatively well-traveled corridor that included a man-made water tank. A stock dam is what we would call it from where I come from in South Dakota. The snow finally quit that first day, and we had nothing to show for it. The second morning came, and I was up and at 'em after spending a freezing cold night in my tent. The temperatures in the mid-20s will make you wonder what you're doing on top of a mountain covered in snow. I drove to a spot in the darkness higher up the trail that was impassable the day before. The snow was settling, and the deliberate trip up the trail slowly, carefully with the truck and 4-wheel drive warmed me up and put my mind back fully on the task of harvesting a bull elk. I posted myself near the bottom of the draw, below the tank where I had posted myself the previous morning. I dropped my backpack and glass and waited. It was a tough test of endurance. I couldn't sit down. The snow would have added to the cold. It was hard enough scanning the valley and mountainside the day after, overdoing it in my childlike exuberance to search for elk. I was going to have to pace myself. My muscles were aching. The wind was chilling me, but I stood like a sentry looking for an elusive bull. At first, I thought I was hallucinating. In the distance, probably a mile away, a herd was running. They were charging toward me, snow churning under hoof as they plowed through it. It was still cloudy and flurries fell off and on. There were at least 2 bulls in the herd, and the herd numbered about 6 or 7. I couldn't even count them. My head was spinning. This was it. They're going to be right by me in just a few moments, mere seconds. But they didn't show. They disappeared behind a little rise, one drainage over. What was I going to do? I was going to cut them off. I ran uphill, through the snow as fast as I could, 50 yards, then 75 yards from where I had left my pack. There they were, still loping easily through the snow. I peered through my scope, but I was breathing so hard there was no chance for a shot. A running elk at 150 yards, with 0 breath control. No, I couldn't shoot. I watched them disappear into the trees above me. Dejected, my breathing returned to normal, and the dissipating adrenaline put me into an energy deficit. I moped down the hill to pick up my pack, playing out in my mind what had just happened. The scenario couldn't be changed. All options reconstituted in my head multiple times led to the same decision of not to fire. I was correct in my decision. Discretion is the better part of valor. Picking up my pack, I once again turned around to retrace my steps uphill. It was another blow to my confidence as I realized I was treading through the snow a 3rd time on my tracks. Up the hill, but then it hit me. There was only one next option. Go where you last saw the elk. I easily found the herd's tracks. They were walking now, easing through the pines and stunted aspens. I followed quietly. It was a simple task in the 6 to 10 inches of snow now settled, to move without a sound. The snow wasn't crunchy yet, and I was the ghost in the forest, tracking the elk, hoof prints in the snow, and looking ahead, watching to see if a bull would appear. Fresh elk droppings and yellow markings in the snow provided an obvious indication that the elk had slowed to a leisurely stroll through the woods. It was cloudy and warming to provide a hint of fog. Visibility was not affected by the haze. The trees were the governing factor to determine what could be seen or what would remain hidden. There it was, a bull elk. It is an exciting mystery when an animal materializes right in front of you, when your brain connects the dots and the picture leaps out at you. He was a mature bull with obvious antlers indicating he would be legal. Standing motionless, less than 45 yards away, he was staring at me. In an instant, I had my rifle up, ready to shoot. It was like a lace veil existed between me and the bull. Stunted and dead aspen trees, most of them no more than 3 inches in diameter, stood between us. I had a clear shot at his head, and I tried to lean against one of the aspens for stability as I aimed for the bull's eye. But the dead tree I was using for support yielded. It would not support my weight. I was going to have to shoot offhand, the internal clock in my head ticking faster and faster. How long would that bull stand there before bolting into the depths of the forest? I fired. Miss! The roar of the rifle echoed, reverberating through the trees. The bull lurched forward and stopped. He was confused, still looking in my direction, but not at me. It all happened so quickly. I worked the bolt and chambered another cartridge. The elk had stepped forward enough to expose his front shoulder and target area, the heart and lungs. I fired again, still only about 50 yards away. The bull bolted, and the area exploded with elk. The rest of the herd had remained unseen by me until the second shot. Then it was chaos. They tore away, crashing through the trees, churning up black soil, up into the pure white snow. I felt confident in the shot. I hung my blaze orange stocking cap on a branch of an aspen from where I had shot as a reference point. I didn't see an elk down in the snow. I walked forward, chambering another round. I moved perpendicular to the trail I hoped to intersect. A wave of panic washed over me. I expected to see an elk on the ground, nestled into the snow, but he wasn't there. I found fresh tracks of the elk herd in the snow, particularly the tracks of the bull that I had shot at. No blood. My stomach dropped. My stomach dropped to my feet. Had I missed again? This hunt was going to be ruined by my misses. Negative thoughts filled my head. I was in disbelief as I moved forward, scanning the snow for a hint of blood. There was none. The voice on one side of my head scolded me. How could you miss? The other side of my brain mounted defense. These dang aspens. The argument didn't last long. There, just up ahead, I was glancing forward, taking my gaze off the white snow, hoping to see just a speck of blood that would confirm a hit. There was a hump. My brain finally registered the form as the bull. Cream-colored rump and brown fur contrasting against the snow. I could see the antlers. He was down, dead. And here's a photo of me with my first elk, first bull elk. And the caption reads, October 2011, my first elk. This was hanging the elk up at camp for butchering. I didn't have a camera in the field with me that day, but back in camp, I gave Clyde my camera and had him get some photos for the record. This was just before I started carrying a phone with a camera while hunting. There may not be phone service where we hunt, but I take a ton of photos with me when I have my iPhone out in the woods. So this is a photo, and this is me up in the back of Clyde's truck. We're getting get the elk hung up on a couple bigger aspens, and you can kind of see the red handle to come along hanging on the aspen tree there, and see me kind of crouched down, standing behind the elk. I got the elk head pointed towards the camera, and I'm holding onto the antlers, and I got a sweatshirt. It's just a sweatshirt on, and an orange vest and stocking cap. Got my hood up. I just got my blue jeans and my hunting blue jeans that I wore. That was pretty much all I wore. Still wear, basically, for hunting. But it was kind of chilly. I think I was actually wearing a rain jacket when I was out in the field hunting. This was after coming back to camp and working. So I had stripped down just to my camouflage zipper sweatshirt. And the elk is still in the back of the truck, and Clyde has positioned himself near the cab on the passenger side of the truck, and he's taking the photo of me across the back of the truck with the tailgate down, and from the passenger side front cab side of the cab to me, I'm on the driver's side end of the tailgate there. Kind of looks like I'm surprised he's taking the picture, but anyway, good picture, good memory. The relief was more than the joy I felt. Then the immediate sadness that comes with the death of a majestic wild animal taken by your hand is a feeling that can sink you if you can't celebrate the life of your harvested game. For me, I know that the protein it will provide for me will be carried in my muscles for as long as I live. It is always a roller coaster of emotions when that animal is down. And here is another photo, and I'll read the caption here and talk about it. Caption reads, my first bull elk took up a good chunk of the bed of Clyde's truck bed when we hauled it back to camp. This photo from October 2011 still amazes me. So you can see this is from the south end of a north-facing bull elk. See, it means very respectable set of antlers. It's a 5x5. They're probably, 25 to 30 inches wide. And got I don't know if that's the heart or liver there, bagged up next to it in the back of the pickup. And this picture is taken from the passenger side tailgate tailgate area, looking forward towards the driver's side cab of the truck, and you can see that the bull elk is facing away. It's got its nose in the corner. You can get a good view of the elk antlers from the backside, and pretty big-bodied elk for a younger mature bull. And I didn't do a good job getting some more field photos of this bull elk. I think I got just so excited about getting it and having Clyde there to help take care of it and get it butchered up and cut up and stuff. I think I just rushed into that mode of managing the meat at that point. So it was feel kind of regret not getting a few more pictures, good pictures that I could have displayed. I guess that would be worthy of framing. None of these pictures I think are really what I consider would be appropriate for having 8 by 10 hanging on the wall. Maybe I can find one later, or maybe one of the scouting photos I can put that up as sort of a trophy photo. Anyway, back to the chapter. I touched the eyeball of the bull elk with the barrel of my rifle to make sure it was dead. I said a prayer of thanks to God. I thanked the elk for giving his life to me. I was fully recovered, breathing normal, heart rate unnoticeable. I had a calm over me that seemed out of place. Maybe it was more that I was in awe than anything else. That elk was huge. It was double, almost triple the size of any deer that I had ever harvested. It was going to be a big job to gut it. I dropped my pack and my rifle. I decided to walk back to get my stocking cap before doing anything else. It was a good decision. No, the best decision. Walking to pick up my hat let my mind savor the moment. There would never be another first elk. These memories are seared into my brain. Over a decade later, I capture my feelings on paper, and it feels just as satisfying being able to see myself walking to my hat and then retracing my steps in the snow back to the elk. It's a third-person perspective. I'm watching myself. I'm not seeing this happen through my own eyes. It's as if I'm watching myself in a movie. It never gets old. I was 42 years old when I got my first elk. It was a dream come true. My goal had been to live in the Rocky Mountains and hunt elk. I did it. I wasn't able to share the moment or story in person with Grandpa, but I'm sure he was there with me, at least in spirit. So here we have another photo, and I'll read the caption here and then talk about it. On October 9th, 2011, I achieved a dream harvesting my first elk. I look happy and relaxed after getting the bull skinned. It doesn't look like I am exhausted, but I am. And so this is a photo of me. I'm kind of squatting down. I got the head of the elk, and the hide is still attached to the head, and squatting down and holding it, and Clyde is taking a photo of me. He's kind of looking a little bit down, angling down on me, and I'm just in the snow. There's a open patch of snow, and there's a few tire tracks through the snow there. In the background, you can kind of see some of the aspens, similar to where I shot the elk. This is probably a mile from where I shot it. Actually, this is where we were camping, the camping area. And it's a nice 5x5 elk, and you can see the sort of the primitive tagging method at the time that the New Mexico Department of Game and Fish had. They had just a piece of paper. You printed out your own tag from your computer, and then you had to use some tape to affix it to the antler. And you can see that on the left antler. I have some black electrician's tape around the paper tag that you just printed out yourself. So I'm wearing just a camouflage zip-up sweatshirt and orange stocking cap, and got a big smile on my face. I really don't look worse for the wear, but I think it's pretty rough. Anyway, back to the chapter. It was a task to get the entrails out of the elk. I worked up a sweat, hunched over, slicing through the hide and the abdominal wall, carefully removed the intestines. It was a battle. The stomach bloating as digestion still occurred without release of the gases. Working on large animals is a challenge when you are alone. One needs to be careful, but you don't want to dilly-dally. As I worked, there was a noise, a vehicle. I looked and a truck drove by. I was only about 75 yards from the road. I had no idea I was this close to the trail. My mind was flooded with images of what might have been. What if I chased that bull right to a hunter that was just cruising the trail in his truck and they had shot the bull right in front of me? I didn't realize how lucky I was. I laughed out loud at the thought. Hunting in the national forest is not only challenging in tracking down the wily game, you are also competing with other hunters. It's not easy. No matter how many videos you might see of elk hunting, it will never prepare you for the arduous task that it is. It will exhaust you, knock you down, so that you think you can't do it. But the reward and satisfaction in success outweighs any negatives. My luck continued. I retrieved Clyde from camp, and we were able to drive his truck right next to the elk. That never happens when elk hunting. Typically, an elk is killed at the farthest, steepest, and most difficult location away from the camp. Not this time. With a come along in hand, with the hand winch and a chain, we loaded the bull into the back of Clyde's truck in no time. Returning to camp, we got the elk hung up using 2 solid aspens, the come along, and the chain. I struggled to skin the elk. I was dehydrated and my hand was cramping. Taking a break and managing my fluid intake with a water and Gatorade to balance my electrolytes, I recovered. Previous days' hunting and efforts of the morning, including gutting the elk, had caught up to me. We got the elk skinned and quartered. The snow flurries came and went during that time. But when we were packed up and ready to take the quarters of meat to Santa Fe, the sun was out. It was the brightest of days, the sun reflecting off the snow-covered trees, and the ground provided a brilliant scene. It was almost blinding. I can't help but think it was a sign that Grandpa was with me, satisfied with the success. I had done it. I had achieved a lifelong dream of living and working in the Rocky Mountains, and then add a cherry on top by being able to harvest an elk. Dreams do come true. I wish I would have taken my first elk with Grandpa's 30-06, but it didn't happen. I could embellish the tale and say that I did, but it's a better story this way. It is a reflection of the reality that we all manage. What we want, what we need, and what we get. They rarely align, but when they do, we better savor it. Between you and me, feel free to tell people that I did get my first elk with Grandpa's rifle with 1 shot. And we end the chapter with a photo, and I'll read the caption, and then I'll talk about it a little bit. The caption reads, an October 2011 panoramic photo of elk hunting area in the fading light of the afternoon. Most of the snow had melted, with the only remaining drifts in the shaded areas. After filling my tag, I hauled my camera with me for the remainder of the time afield as we tried to get an elk for Clyde. We didn't get any more shots from our rifles, but I got plenty of shots with my Canon camera. So I got this picture. It's a panoramic view of the hunting area where we hunt up in Unit 51. And you can see the little different layers of mountains in the distance as it goes in the background. And the main little mountain here in the front, in the foreground, well, the midground. The foreground is sort of the dipping down into the valley there. And that little mountain there is known as Richard Mountain, which I tried to rename Greg Mountain because Richard had no meaning to anybody It's still around, except Clyde. So you can call it Greg Mountain as far as you're concerned, if you ever see the mountain. But you can see most of the snow's gone. There's few puffy clouds and a blue sky. And I took this picture, and this panoramic photo is from the Canon camera, and they have this like a stitch mode where you just take three different pictures, or three or more pictures, or two or more pictures, and you can stitch them together through the software. And that was before just iPhones. You can just have your panoramic pictures. You can just hold your phone and take a sweeping view of an area and have a nice panorama. But this one, it's really nice. Kind of getting towards later afternoon. Still a couple hours before sunset, but you can see the shadows are getting a little longer, and you see the brown fall grasses, and some of the aspens still have some yellow leaves left on them, and snow is only left in some of the shaded areas, and it's really, really nice picture. So anyway, that's the end of the chapter, but we always conclude the chapter with a quote, and this one's no different. So the end of chapter 46, The Elk Hunt, ends with this quote. Quote, "Success is no accident. It is hard work, perseverance, learning, studying, sacrifice, and most of all, love of what you are doing or learning to do." End quote. And that's from Pele. Or Pelé. I don't know. I always say Pele. But he was, of course, the brilliant soccer star from the 1970s from Brazil, and he was won World Cup. At least won one World Cup, and was world famous. And I think if you go to any Latin country in the world, Spanish-speaking country, and say Pelé or Pele, they'd immediately recognize one of the greatest soccer stars ever. So that's it. That's the Elk Hunt, chapter 46, in the books for today. So there you go. Thanks for joining me in the podcast and getting this into the audio and video record. That's a good one. Very, I guess, very Greg-centric chapter this time. And I think we got a couple more that are, as we get to the end of the memoir, where we have the elk hunt, and we have, what do we have? The goose, the bear, and the oryx. So we got those coming up, and those are very much centered around me hunting with that tinge of influence of my grandpa, sort of peripherally pushing on the story for me, and always in the back of my mind how his influence is there. So more of those to come, but we're getting near the end. Anyway, that's it. That's the end of the memoir reading for today. So we're going to go to a couple other miscellaneous things, and I'll wrap it up. We're just about an hour already, and most of that was the chapter reading. So I'll cut it short. But of course, we have some updates. We'll start with the baseball update. And of course, the Minnesota Twins baseball update is sponsored by Teener Baseball, a book written by yours truly. And I always have to have the quote. Quote, "Greg wrote a book," end quote. Tony Kornheiser, sports media personality. And of course, there's the poster. If you're watching this video on YouTube, I guess I didn't say that during the actual reading, but all those photos I talked about, all those captions I read, those photos, I will insert those into the YouTube video. And if you get this podcast through Apple Video Podcasts, maybe you can watch it. I think that's up and running. I think I've seen the notices. I don't know if they are going in through my service, or I have to upload those separately. I will figure that out here in the near future and, see how that's going. Maybe I have to add the rest of my other video podcasts to Apple separately. So we'll get that figured out. But there'll be videos, and you can see, me reading the chapter and then the actual pictures, and then you'll see me holding up the book for the Minnesota Twins update. And this week, Major League Baseball update sponsored by Teenager Baseball. The Twins record, 63-65 going into today. So they're 2 games under 500, .492 winning percentage, and they're up 0.05% of winning percentage, .487 last week. And I know they had kind of a weird week. They got swept by the Phillies, and the first game of that series, I think, was the Field of Dreams. It played in Iowa at the Field of Dreams, that by the cornfield there. Can't remember, what was this, Dyersville, I think? So they got crushed by the Phillies and swept. Then they went to Minneapolis to play the last 2 games of that series and got beat. And then the Atlanta Braves, who are doing very well and well within the playoff hunt, came to Minneapolis, and the Twins swept the Braves, which is just totally unexplainable how they can be up and down so much, but they're hanging in there close to 500, which is way better than what I was predicting they would do. I was predicting they'd probably be around a 400 winning percentage by the end of the year. They're still in the playoff hunt. I think they got the last wild card spot in the playoffs currently. I guess if I was a betting man, I would bet against that they're going to make the playoffs. They just do not have what I consider playoff caliber talent on the team, pitching or otherwise. They don't really even have a star. They got Byron Buxton as quote unquote their star, but he's probably an average outfielder on pretty much any other team in the league, hitting right around 260, just under 260, I think. Their best offensive player is probably their catcher, Ryan Jeffers, who's hitting 270, 280, somewhere in there. I don't know but he was injured, so he didn't make the All-Star team. Broke what was that, hamate bone in his hand or something, so he missed some time. But he's probably the best offensive player, but he's a catcher, so he's slow. And I don't know. I just don't really I have zero faith that they can make the playoffs. And if they do make the playoffs, they won't be able to do anything anyway. So I don't know. But still surprising. Surprisingly, they're in the playoff hunt. I give them credit for trying. I do not believe in them. Anyway, on to the other sports headlines. NFL preseason in full swing. I think we got some games tonight, preseason games starting. So we'll be checking those out this weekend, maybe. I don't know. I didn't see the Minnesota Vikings in preseason game. I think I have it recorded someplace because I couldn't see it live. I might watch the first couple series of that just to see kind of how they are, but my Minnesota affiliation is slowly withering away. This might be it. This might be it for me. Last year of my Vikings fanship, then I will go on the market for NIL, name, image, likeness, affiliation to other professional sports teams if they want to hire me to represent their franchise. I'm open to discussion on that. I don't have an agent, so we can save some cash money and give you the discount minimum. I'll say 10%, but we can maybe negotiate. Maybe we'll start at 10%, depending on what the offers are, and maybe I can give a little bit of a break otherwise, since I'm unaffiliated. So look for that. I'm hoping for maybe a Christmas time announcement with some of my new teams and new affiliations. Looking forward to that. So stay tuned. But anyway, NFL preseason coming up. It's happening fast. Things are spinning out of control, it seems like, because I want to go into my next section here is the big news. The big news headline that I like to say, this is based on, I've stolen this big news because the Keloland, the big news at 10 from my life growing up in South Dakota there, the CBS affiliate out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, the KELO, Keloland News, the big news at 10. So I've stolen the big news headline. Big news for this week and this podcast is my elk scouting trip up to Pot Mountain, where I plan on hunting for elk this year. Um, in It's no coincidence that this was my elk chapter 46 of the memoir, and we went scouting elk this last week. I think that was the 9th, and was it the 9th and 10th? Whatever it was, about that same time, and the elk are, I can confirm the antlers are still in velvet because I did see an elk. I wasn't planning on seeing an elk. I was mostly up there to try to blaze a trail from my campsite, my planned campsite where I'm going to set up, and then I have to climb the mountain in the morning. So what I was doing is I was blazing a trail, marking it with some tape and some reflective markers, reflective thumbtacks, and my thumb is still sore. It still kind of feels numb and weird when I touch it with the end of my thumb from pushing thumbtacks into some of the trees. The trees mostly with bark, it was pretty soft, but some of the smaller scrub oak, pushing those in, man, that kind of hurt. And my thumb, it's over a week later. No, it was 1 week ago today. I was still marking the trail, and my thumb is still from that pressure of pushing. I don't know how many they're retroreflective thumbtacks, so you just shine a light on them so you can see where the trail is. And I did that because there's a bunch of rocky areas, so I made the trail up during daylight and marked it with survey marking tape on branches and stuff, and then I put these retroreflective thumbtacks so I could go up and down in the dark without having to, pick and choose my way through it, to hopefully save time and effort and avoid some of these rocky areas where there's kind of some steeper cliff-like areas that have big boulders, and if you get off track, then you can lose a lot of time, and that's one thing you can't afford to lose time when you're hunting this area, because you gotta get up and down. You gotta get up up to the top of the mountain under the cover of darkness, because when the elk are still moving in the pre-dawn, it's open up there, but everywhere else it's really full of trees and you can't really see anything. So you gotta get up in the open when they're making their move from their food source back to the trees. And I feel like had a good effort on that for 2 days of marking territory, or marking my trail up, and just out of lucky coincidence, I did see an elk up there, a small bull. I think he was probably a 3 or 4 pointer, still in velvet, and I'll have to try to I know I got a little video of him. He came right up to me. The wind was right, and he was just oblivious to my presence. I was behind a tree, and he never saw me, never noticed me, and he was just grazing, moving along all by himself. And I took a little video, and I think I got some stills I can add into the video podcast here for that. It's really kind of cool. So that's the big news for the week. It's elk. I called it elk scouting, but it was mostly just elk hunting preparation with trailblazing. It's not like I was cutting trees down trying to make a clean path up there. I was just marking a trail through the trees so that it would just be easier access and quicker recognition of the gaps and openings. It's kind of go up and you kind of meander away from the area I actually want to hunt, but I have to go away because of the terrain that's there is really rocky and steep in some of those areas. So I got that marked out, and I feel like I got a good grasp on that. I'm gonna go up there probably again the next couple weeks to make sure everything's looking good. Get everything laid out, marked for the hunt in October. So I think we're probably 6 weeks away, and I'll be on a good conditioning check to see how I feel physically going up and down the mountain, because it's about a mile and a half up and it's about 1,200 feet elevation change. So it's no joke. Started about 8,000 feet elevation, you get up to 9,200 feet elevation. And I'm getting old. Let's just let's just not try to sugarcoat it. So 15 years, is that right? 15 years after I shot my first elk, um, I can feel it. I can feel like it's a major effort to do this. So anyway, that's the big news for the week. And I think I'm gonna just stop it there, an hour and 6 minutes, and I did have some other notes prepared I wanted to talk about, but we can save them till the next time. Next time, a little shorter chapter. I think I had a couple shorter chapters coming up. But then the more Greg centric, as I call them, the more uh, longer, the bear hunt, the oryx hunt, and the goose. Those are a little longer chapters. Those take up. They'll probably take most of the hour. So I'm trying to keep it to an hour for now. And anyway, let's wrap it up there, and we'll sign off. So as I like to say in the sign off portion of the show, and if you're watching the video, yeah, you're lucky you can see that I'm wearing the straw hat. It's just summertime, still pretty warm. And I was hoping the straw hat is still not taking shape quite right. I'm gonna have to probably put some pressure on the brim to kind of bring the brim down a little bit because it's too curled for my liking. I want a little flatter for more sunshade protection. I think it's been cooped up for a few years and I haven't used it. So I'm gonna try to reshape my George Strait straw hat. It's nice white resistol hat. But anyway, um, if you're just listening, you can check out the video podcast on YouTube. And I'm not gonna swear that it's up on Apple Video Podcasts yet because I'm not sure how that's working. But it'll be up. I'll put this up on YouTube later, and you'll be able to see all the pictures of the chapter, and you get to see me reading the chapter if you want. But anyway, I'm gonna sign off for now, and we have the three B's: be assertive, be positive, and be proactive. Get out there and take charge. Take charge of your life. And I think that's my main emphasis of of all the podcasting I'm doing. That's I think my if this is like a cultural podcast, my main life advice is you take action. Be proactive. Go out and do stuff. Don't hesitate. He who hesitates is lost. You just take the action, and then you can react to whatever the result of your action is, and go from there. And don't be passive. Make things happen. You make things happen. So anyway, that's it. The three B's: be assertive, be positive, and be proactive. And that's it. So we don't say goodbye. We say see you next time. And as always, we say knock, and the door will be open to you. Seek, and you'll find. Ask, and you shall be given. So that's it. Not goodbye, but see you later. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.